November 2nd, 2016. Let us, as always, begin the meeting by doing a stand-up with everyone who is here. So let's start with Anna.
Yeah, still not terribly much. Like, I think most of my activity was on that one issue that we are going to talk about. And yeah, that's about it. I don't think Bradley is here.
I am.
And, oh, okay, sure. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have anything to report though, so that's all good. So can move on.
Looks like it's me next. I just did issue and PR comments and started working on a 7.1.0 release proposal. Next is Jeremiah.
Hello, I got well, I was out most of last week, but I did the V6 to V7 breaking changes doc that's on the Node.js wiki now. And I've also been working on getting the GitHub bot, getting a new script for it so that it will be able to automatically test if a PR is able to be backported. So it can test that to multiple branches, and then we can get a little bit quicker automation to see which commits belong where or not. So hopefully that'll be helpful. Next is Josh Gavant.
Yeah, getting together the diagnostics working group meeting for next week at Wednesday at 3. If anyone wants to come. Participating in the discussion about NVM and whether we want to get into version management and runtime management. And then just general reviewing and testing of a lot of the diagnostic stuff. Next is Michael Dawson.
So yeah, I've mostly been away at conferences. Have had some time to try and keep on top of the issues, and just a very small amount of work on pushing the code coverage job forward, and a little bit of work talking with Jadip in terms of getting the V8 test job restored to a working state. Next is Julian.
Nothing much this week. Next is Brian.
Okay, so about same as last week. Just continue working on string encoding, decoding performance, testing on different devices and different platforms and stuff. Other than that, just commenting on issues and reviewing PRs as usual. Next is Ali.
Yeah, so I've been working with the team here on putting together the trace event pull request for Node. Also working on the performance of the new interpreter-based pipeline that V8 is working on. Next is Rod, if he's here. Or Miles.
Yep, no, I'm here. Okay, so just lots of catching up. I'm sort of in sync now with the project after some time off and some difficulty staying in sync. I did a bit of experimentation work on LibreSSL support. There's a pull request with that in there. That's functional. It's a few tests failing, but there's a possibility that we could support LibreSSL if we want to. So I know there's some distros and operating systems like OpenBSD that require it. So that might be something for us to consider. Also added a backup OS X machine to the build system, into the CI system that's located in a different place. So we have redundancy for OS X right now, which is useful. Still working on trying to get new OS X resources donated to the project. And a bunch of other build stuff as well that I've been working on. But next would be Miles, I think.
Hello, I've been on vacation for the last week, so I have nothing to report except that I am rested and vacated and ready to dive back in.
Next up
Not
is
on top of saying who's next. Who is Santi?
Sakapriyan. Yeah.
Hi. Last week I was working on some old pairs. They were making the logs and a few make fail improvements. Apart from that, we tried to organize a meetup last week, but there was a big festival here, so we had to cancel it at the last moment. What else? Apart from that, peer review, and that's it. Next is Trevor.
Hey, I've been a little sick, and I have hammered out every last kink from the Async API that I could possibly imagine, and I almost have the implementation completely done. Next is Trot, Rich.
Hi, so I fixed some flaky tests, including a mega fix for FreeBSD in CI, and CI has actually been green sometimes now. So I'm really excited about this, and I am, you can't see it on the Uber conference, but I am distributing high fives all the way around. And what else? Been working on just some outreach type things, the outreachy intern thing that the foundation is doing is nearing its selection phase, and then, well, nearing the end of its selection phase, and we'll actually have people working on projects pretty soon. We're doing some Node.to-do stuff and some other things related to that, preparing for Node Interactive, doing the issue and PR review per usual, and that is all I'm going to say. And did we miss anybody? I will take silence to mean that we did not miss anyone. Sounds good. So let's move right to the, well, I guess before we do the agenda, we do the previous meeting. Last time we talked about two things. We talked about considering folding the TSC into the CTC. We kind of kicked that down the road to this meeting, so we'll be talking about that again. And we also talked about the whole issue around when to name and when not to name functions, and that went back to GitHub, and I said that I would document where I thought we should name things and where I thought it was a bad idea, and I ended up retreating from that and just merely documenting one case where we should definitely name functions, and that seems to have allowed people to at least move forward with changes that will improve things. So there's probably been like 6 or 8 pull requests since then. And that's it from the last meeting as far as I can recall. I'll stop talking for 10 seconds in case somebody else has something they want to remind everybody of from last meeting. Okay, so let's go right to the first item, which is the CTC membership nomination for the Fourth Eye, Sactoprion. And I think we already have sufficient LGTMs and +1s from CTC members that it's happening. But I know that Josh will want to, and appropriately so, document the names of everyone and how they voted. So I guess we're going to go ahead and do that. Before we do that, is there anybody who believes that we need to have some conversation, discussion around this at this time?
Probably just need a chance for anyone here that hasn't voted, just to put their vote in.
Okay. Hey, Michael, I'm going to mute you because there's a lot of noise coming through. Okay, so Josh, how do you want to handle this? Should we just, oh, well, I guess what we did last time that worked pretty well was voting in the sidebar. So, so in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up, unless that didn't work for you or something.
I'm thinking maybe we'll think about it. I'll just have a list of names, just drop them in the sheet next time, and everybody could just write next to it. It'll be easier. But
Oh,
for now,
you're just gonna. Oh, well, well, here, I'll just copy and paste the CTC folks right into the doc, and then everybody can just fill in their vote, and you or I can fill in the missing folks based on the issue tracker. Does that work?
yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay, let me just. Sorry, everybody. We'll get this dialed in better next time, maybe. I don't know. Everybody's already typing their names in. Well, here I'm gonna do a big old paste.
Yeah, that's fine. Next time I'll get that prep beforehand. Just thought of it now.
Yeah. All right. So I see that we have +1s from Jeremiah and Evan. So I'm gonna just transpose those. Whoops. Oh boy. All right. So maybe put it before the name or after the name. Everybody's putting it after, so we're gonna do it after. There's Jeremiah. There's Evan. I'm gonna put in myself. Somebody's trying to delete me. What's going on? Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So yeah, start typing, everybody. And I'll read them off for the sake of the stream, but just keep going. So
yeah,
far
just
we
drop
have
them in like you're doing +1, and then I'll just clean this up and make it look pretty.
exactly. Yeah, don't worry about cleaning it up because otherwise, what would Josh do? Just kidding. Okay, so we have in favor, we have Anna, we have Jeremiah, we have Michael Dawson, we have Julian, we have Brian, Ali, Rod, me, Trevor, and if we go over to the issue tracker, we can add Colin and Nikita and Ben and Miles. If anybody's doing that, that'd be great. Awesome. I'll add Colin to here. I think Fedor voted, but I'm not sure. Does anybody know? All right. Well, anyway, at this point we have and James voted in favor.
Brian, sorry, you only get 1 vote.
Okay. So it looks to be we have three people missing, but other than that, it's unanimous. So Dr. Priyan, welcome, congratulations. And as far as an action item goes, Rod, will you handle all the emailing the fourth eye, all the information he needs, adding him to the mailing list, all that sort of awesome stuff?
Yep.
Great. So congratulations, welcome, and thanks for everything.
Thanks a lot, people.
Yeah, welcome.
I get to learn a lot. I get to learn a lot of things from you guys, and I really consider this as an honor to be in CTC. I'm really glad. Thanks a lot.
Okay. So we have about 35 minutes left, and we have 3 items that are on here, and then Anna wanted to add a 4th item. Let's start with the one we always decide to postpone, which is the whole consider folding TSC into CTC. Rod, you put this on the agenda, and
look,
yeah.
So at this stage, unless anyone has got anything pressing to say about it, what I wanted to do is, because I haven't been in the last 3 meetings, I think it is, has there been any discussion about it, and can I get a general feel about it? Is there are people here seeming to lean towards a particular way on this, or is it contentious? That's my question.
So we haven't actually talked much about it. We've been encouraging people to put their opinions in the issue tracker.
Okay, well, there hasn't been an update for that for 2 weeks, so I assume that it's gone a bit stale. We'll be talking about it again. My general reading is that people are positive about doing this. I know there's a little bit of negative as well. We'll take it back to the TSC, and I think what the next step is to come up with 1 or 2 proposals for how this actually might work, and then we can consider concrete options and see if they're practical for moving forward. Maybe once we get those outlined, we look at them and say, well, that's not really practical. It's not going to work. Or maybe we look at it and say, that's great, logical. Let's just do it. So I think that's the next step here. So unless anyone has anything to add here, I think we can move on.
I know my opinions probably be already communicated to the TSC, but I still think it's probably not a great idea to do this, particularly soon after the TSC has pretty much like figured out why it exists. We have the what was that? The node core like sort of definition thing kind of like as a sensible, or rather in a way that the board might accept it, and until that like hits the board and we actually see if we can take some action on it, I don't know if doing this is a good thing, because it seems a little bit too hasty.
Well, okay, quick question. Will folding it put more items on our agenda?
Well,
Depending
that's
on
where
how we fold it, maybe.
Yeah, there's a few options here, but that would one of the goals would be not to clutter this forum with too much administrative work, because that's one of the reasons we split it off in the first place. We don't want to force people who want to make technical decisions to have to make administrative decisions as well. So if we can find a...
That's my one fear, is if we can keep all those administrative decisions out of these meetings, or this meeting specifically, then that would alleviate pretty much everything I worry about.
Right, but yeah, there's other things on the other side of that some of us want to balance, which is keeping the two groups properly aligned, and giving people here an opportunity to get involved more easily. So there's a bunch of other factors that some of us really want to consider. But as Jeremiah said, it's not straightforward. It's not, because we need to make sure we can actually effectively make administrative decisions and not have to wait for people to weigh in or put those decisions at risk of people who want to drop in at the last minute and haven't been involved in the discussion up to that point. So there's a couple of things that we want to be careful of, just to make sure that we can continue effectively, but we want to do it. We want to make sure that the organization is functioning really well. So let's move on. Jeremiah's concerns are documented, and I think we're well aware of that. And also Jeremiah's been participating in that discussion, so I think we're capturing those concerns. If anyone else has concerns, please jot them into that issue.
Okay, and I guess we'll remove CTC agenda from that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so basically the next step. Okay, the item after that is the meeting schedule, because we had agreed to try the rotating schedule for a month and then revisit, and so it's been a month. I think it's you know, I'm the one to put this on the agenda, so I'm going to frame it, which means I also get to state my opinion up front, which is I think overall it's been a good thing. Some folks who were having trouble attending, you know, notably Shieki, you know, is able to attend at the other time that we've been meeting. So I would like to continue rotating times, but I would like to have anybody for whom, well, actually just have everybody look at what they put in the private Google Doc indicating their available times, to update that, so that if in fact you know, we can make improvements to the times we've selected, if we can pick times that will work better, let's you know, have the information available to do that. Other than that, that's all I have to say about this. So any contrary opinions or similar opinions or no opinion, please speak up right now.
So I don't want to object outright, but I do want to say it's been difficult for me because I can't make every second one because it's 3 a.m. and then I missed 2 weeks ago, and that means I've missed 3 meetings in a row. So it makes it difficult for me, but you know, the benefit to the rest of Asia has been great. So that feels like a balancing factor. Also, it does feel like we've been pushing more stuff to GitHub. Rich, is that your reading as well? Have we been more effectively doing that over the past few weeks?
I feel that way, yeah.
Yeah, so that's positive. I just want to register my negative here. It's not been pleasant.
Yeah, what I'd really like to do to help you out, because you are the one for whom this is the worst, because but anyway, what I wanted to do what I would like to be able to do is if we can find 3 meeting times so that it's not every other meeting, it's every 3rd meeting, which is hopefully more tolerable. But it's hard, it's difficult.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So just as a note, if you live in an area that uses daylight savings time changes, if those times are going to then differ when it switches over than you originally put on the sheet, you should consider updating the sheet. And that's also like a note that I need to do. But for anyone else, if you might have forgot about that, that might be a good idea.
Where's this shit again?
Email Ben. He volunteered to email it to anybody who doesn't have the link.
Okay, cool.
We should probably just email like this CTC again and be like, if DST whatever, then
Are you volunteering, Jeremiah?
If I know what the link is, then yeah.
We've all lost it, haven't we?
You can email Ben.
If you filled it in before, isn't it still in like your Google Drive or Google Docs?
Okay.
It might be.
Let's move on the conversation from that. We can talk about that later. But anything else on this topic?
So I just want to get this straight. We're concluding that we will continue this indefinitely now, and do we have consensus on that?
Well, that's actually a great question, because my intention was I was going to review the we just added another member, so I was gonna review the times that work and don't work for everyone again, and see if the schedule can be improved, and then propose a new schedule, if in fact I can find a better one. So I was hoping that everybody would update the doc, say by the end of this week, and I could send something out to CTC this weekend, and we could, hopefully make a decision Monday or Tuesday. So that's probably too long-winded to put in the minutes. But I guess you could say next steps would be somebody, maybe Jeremiah, maybe me, but somebody should mail the private link to the CTC and encourage people to update the doc, and then I'll propose a schedule, before Monday, and we'll go from there. Does that work, Josh?
Yeah. I'm good.
And does that work for everybody else?
Sure.
That's good.
Did you say you wanted me to do that email on next Monday then?
No, the email needs to go out like right away, like today.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item is mine, and I think I actually want to kick it out at least one more week. It was to just review how the CTC review process is working, because it was approved, but there were some concerns, and so I said that we would review it after 4 weeks to see how it was or wasn't working. We haven't had enough, although we've been much better about doing things in GitHub, I think. We haven't actually had a whole lot of usage of the CTC review process, even on issues where we've labeled it CTC review. So I'd like to give it another couple of weeks, I think, just because we haven't done anything with it, so we don't know how it is or isn't working. And if we continue to not use it, that's probably a sign that we don't need it. But I would like to give it a couple more weeks. So anyone who feels differently or has some input, please say something right now.
You said this was, we originally discussed this 4 weeks ago.
We it was discussed in GitHub. I don't think we discussed it at a meeting. You wanted to pull up the issue?
Oh, like it wasn't discussed at a meeting at all?
I don't
I
think
feel
so.
like it was, but it wasn't that long ago, maybe. I don't know. I've been a little bit out like the last 2 weeks, so I haven't even like seen anything with this.
Yeah,
That's
so-
my input. Like,
Okay, so my timeline may be off, but I think that what you're saying is basically consistent with what I'm saying, which is that like we haven't used it enough to be able to draw any conclusions about what is or isn't working.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so no real next steps on that other than we'll discuss it in a week or two. And we have one more item, which is the issue that Anna wanted to add, which I'll go get the link right now. And before we start with that, are there any other issues that someone wanted to add to the agenda? I was supposed to ask at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, then while I am finding the link to paste into the doc, Anna, do you want to frame the issue? This is around the global. Yeah, well, I'll let you say what it is.
Yeah, I just posted the link in the chat here. It's pull request 9279. Okay, so what happened in that was that in v7, when you call object.prototype.toString on the global object, it previously would return object global, and now it doesn't anymore because of changes in v8. And my PR for that was changing it back using the special symbol that makes that possible, like symbol.toString tag. People have had pretty strong opinions on that, much stronger than mine. And I would like to have a quick discussion around it and see if we can get to some kind of consensus. Like most people a lot of people seem to be in favor of that. Notably, Brian wasn't, and LJ Jordan Harband. So yeah.
I don't really think like that reverting this is a good thing, but I think like I guess maybe we should, because we didn't really intentionally change this. At the same time, it's like a little bit awkward because it's sort of a V8 dictated thing that caused the change, so it's not like it wasn't really like 100% ours anyways. Like in either case, I think like we should definitely change the new behavior in the next major.
You mean change it back, right? If we changed
Like,
it, then change it back.
like if we revert it or if we keep it, like whatever, by the next major, like it should just print object probably, because there's not really a reason for it to print object global with a non-capitalized global. Like there's nothing else that even prints it that way. Just strange.
So if I recall correctly from reading the thread, weren't people primarily using it for environment checking?
Yeah, but there's like better ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Use, like,
So
process.
that's kind of what I was getting towards. So like on one hand, we're going to break a handful of different stuff, but it's only broken in 7, and it's only broken because they'd be using this particular method for checking the environment. So there is a part of me that thinks that since we didn't give people warning, it makes sense to revert right now in 7 and make an active push to get everything changed and signal that it will get reverted back in 8. That's kind of what my gut is telling me, but at the same time, This wasn't a supported feature and it was changed by V8, and we've had a policy in the past of not changing things that break with V8, especially around flags and stuff. So I'm not sure, like what kind of precedent that can set. But it is good for us to be intentional about these things.
Right. I guess the other thing that factors in is that we did update the V8 level. Like it was caused by that second update, right? Not the first one.
No, it was caused, as far as I can tell, when I was bisecting by the original V8 update to 5.4.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter which V8 update it was caused by, because it was whichever V8 shipped with V7.0.0.
So Ali looks like he's trying to say something.
Yeah, so there's two distinct discussions here. First one is what should we do in version 7, and the other one, which is a dependent, is whether or not object global or object object is the right thing for version 8. And I think there's two different timelines on which we need to get a resolution on. For version 7, if we didn't intend to break the ecosystem, and it's not something we signaled beforehand, I think we should get a fix out sooner. And whether or not what the longer term solution for version 8 is and how we are going to message it is fairly independent, and we can take more time to discuss that.
Hey Ollie,
Right.
I'm just curious, why did it return object global for? Because I cannot replicate anything else like that using any other constructors or anything. So did V8 special case that so it print object global?
So actually, I haven't looked at the change in a lot of detail, but my understanding is the reason the behavior changes because of spec required changes, that we need to do things differently to because of the spec. Yeah, that's my understanding, but I don't know off the top of my head the detailed reason for why the behavior changed.
Anna, do you happen to know? I think you were a little bit involved with that.
No, I haven't looked at the particular change that was responsible for that in the first place. I think Ben dug it up, and I can see if I find it.
While that's going on, I wonder if we can see if Brian can speak to this, because judging from the issue tracker back and forth, it looks like there were a lot of people who were on the fence, a handful of people who are for it. Brian is the strongest voice opposed to it, and I guess I want to know, is there any, basically, is there any way we can get to consensus here, or is it, or not so much?
Bradley, you're freakishly good at memorizing the entire spec. Do you know exactly why they changed it to object instead of object global? Like, what part of the spec changed that caused that? We went to get a drink because like change it back. But are we gonna, depending on the spec change, are we like painting ourselves into a corner where at some point is it going to have to break regardless? And if it is, then what's the point of trying to fix it now? Because there's no way to like nice and softly deprecate this, right? It's just a clean break.
Yeah, but we can go through npm and find the few instances that are there. There's also just sort of like a principle of don't break stuff on purpose. I mean, don't break stuff.
The main difference is doing it intentionally. So we didn't do it intentionally in V7, but then we would be doing it intentionally in version 8.
I mean, the people aren't going to notice in the change log, or anything, but they will if they're looking for what broke their thing. But
that was actually exactly what was brought up in the thread. The person who started it said, "Hey, I noticed this change and it wasn't in the change log, wasn't intentional."
So I'm going to try again to see if Brian has anything to say. I want to specifically hear anything Brian has to say.
Well, I mean, Travis basically just echoed what I, was feeling, was that, if we're going to be doing this, why don't we just like submit the PRs to the various projects to fix it now instead of just down the road? But, I guess I'm in the minority.
So I guess when I looked at it, my read of it was that the default was changed. Like, this might not be correct, but my understanding is like that by default it returned that before from V8 because there was discussion about how browsers do it. So browsers, like, the global is window, so you get object window oftentimes. And that's like actually like allowed by the spec, even though it's kind of strange. So I guess like V8 did that before, but like is now just moving to doing this by default. That's my understanding of it, but it might be incorrect.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, yeah, I don't think there's actually, like from what I've read, I don't think there's anything in the spec on this topic at all. Like, it just doesn't mention that the global object should be some kind of special case, as it is in the browser, and as Chromium is probably going to keep it.
So this is not technically in the spec text. The proxy behavior of globals is not ECMA 262. That is purely from the JavaScript standard spec by the W3C.
In other words, the Chrome basically does the same thing that this PR is doing, whereby it returns window as opposed to object for global.
Right. Yeah.
And my reading of the original change was that it was not an intentional let's do this change. It was more like there are these other things that are going to change this behavior, but it is not a problem for Chrome or Chromium as a whole, so it's not a big deal. So it doesn't seem like it was an intentional let's change this type. It's just happened, and it wasn't a problem.
Well, it was intentional on V8's side,
Yeah,
not on ours.
I think that's what I was talking about. Okay, so there was an intentional, like, specific pull request for that feature specific change on that for that feature on V8. Then
there must have been. It wouldn't affect Chrome because Chrome already overloads it to show window. So
Okay, so I guess aside from, so I know that Brian is not in favor of this. Trevor, I can't tell if you are also not in favor, or if you have no opinion, or if you are in favor. Do you have an opinion on this?
If it's not against spec and it's not going to, punch us in the face down the road, sure, why not? But if we can determine that it will make life harder for whatever reason, then let's just, I can't imagine the number of modules that relies on this is great or even mediocre.
It isn't.
Yeah, so if there is that chance, then let's just send out the PRs to the other modules and leave it as it is. So my stance is conditioned on one or the other.
like, I don't really like the idea of a revert because like this isn't really like our responsibility. Like, we made a breaking change. Like, we considered that V8 upgrade as a breaking change, and pretty much like whatever like JavaScript language stuff that comes with that. And this is kind of just that.
well, no, it's not. Like, that's not fair. So let's try not to delegate all responsibility to V8 for everything that they do, because our users are impacted by this kind of thing, and we do have it in our ability to change it. Another similar one is that INTL thing that we're talking about. It's getting changed from V8, the break iterator. that's going to impact users that may be using that API. And they're our users. And just because V8's changing it, from the user perspective, it's still Node. Node's changing, Node's breaking. So I don't think we should just draw a really clear line and say that's V8's problem. They decided to change it. There's nothing we can do about it. I do think we need, when we're discussing these things, sure, that can count, add into the discussion, but we need to look at it from the user perspective and say, well, as far as the user is concerned, Node is breaking here. How do we want to approach this? And I think it's more than appropriate for us to be patching V8 to assist our users if we think that's the way to go, or in this case, just putting a symbol, two-string symbol in there.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think this is legitimate.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Trevor.
I think you meant Rod.
Sorry, I think that was me. I was just finishing off my sentence there. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, sure. Just I wanted to say, like, that is what I've been thinking, and you put it better into words than I could. But just like, yeah, from the user perspective, it's a breaking change, and they don't really care where it comes from. And we have the power to do something about it. And yeah, like this isn't a hugely important thing, but I would like it to like set some kind of precedent for seeing, okay, yeah, users don't see Node and V8 as necessarily very separate things, and we do have some kind of responsibility for making sure that that we keep up to our own stability expectations.
Yeah, I agree. And if it was a language feature change, great. Like this, we can just talk about the language change. But this is not. So, and also, like, let's try and hold to this principle of least surprise for users. If we didn't communicate the change, then let's be serious. Let's think seriously about whether we should revert something back or not. And so I think on balance, I'm leaning towards making this change. We can consider reverting it for version 8 if we really want to, but for now, we didn't communicate it. It's within our power.
So we're not voting on this or anything right now. We're trying to get to consensus, which means that nobody objects to it happening. And so I hate to keep singling Brian out, but I want to know, like, is this something you want to kick back to GitHub and have more conversation about so you can more completely articulate your concerns, or is this something where you don't feel actually that strongly about it, and if other people feel strongly it should happen, then okay, fine, it'll happen, and we'll undo the revert in version 8?
I mean, I don't know. I just thinking about, like, the policy we had on like the V8 flags and other things. It just, I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's sort of a same type of thing, in that if we're deciding not to paper over the V8 flag changes, that we shouldn't be doing it here. And the other thing I was thinking about was, like, if once we become like VM neutral, like, how does that, that's going to possibly become a problem there. If Chakra like has like a different object toString, it's like, well, people's scripts are still going to break. So I don't know.
I think that would actually be a good argument for doing the revert, because that ensures that we have consistent behavior across all implementations.
One thing that if somebody's running a script and like they're checking if it's Node could be two different VMs, and then so if somebody's using Chakra, their script would break because it would say, "Oh, it's not Node." So
I think that comes down to intentionality, though. Like, if we're gonna move to VM neutral, that would be a very intentional change. Like, and we would communicate that, like this sort of thing. All these some of these little details like aren't necessarily going to work the same in different VMs.
So
rather than like here, like this kind of changed and we didn't even know about it. Someone else reported it.
Well, I highly doubt Node's going to be VM neutral by 8 or even 9. So if we hate it by then we can always revert it then.
I mean, I don't think we should really like revert unless we're going to change this in the next major, because it seems like just inconsistent in general.
I think the word revert's being used weirdly because maybe I was saying revert the revert, because are some people using revert as in go back to the old way?
Yes, that's what I'm using it as.
Okay.
So sorry, I think like if we're going to restore the original behavior, we should like change it to the V8 default behavior in the next major version.
So one thing that I think is worth considering in this is that if you do object of prototype to string call on window in both Chrome and Firefox, you get object window. So, and I think this was mentioned earlier, but the Chromium project is overwriting this also. Like they're not serving.
So we need to be super careful about this because there are two semi-globals in browsers. There's the global proxy and then there's the global object. Do you know which exact one you did it on?
I did it on the lowercase window, not the uppercase window.
I don't think the uppercase window actually is anything.
That's a function, not an object.
The lowercase window is the proxy. I can ask Dominic about how to get a hold of the real global object, because I know there are ways, but I don't know. This whole stuff is outside of the language spec.
Mm-hmm.
Like at minimum, if we're gonna keep it printing global, like it should probably print global in capitals with like a capital at the front, because like that's what everything else does.
Hey, let's try and resolve this on GitHub and then bring it back for next week's meeting if it needs a vote. So we'll see if we can get to consensus on GitHub. If we can't get anywhere closer, we'll bring it back for a vote. How's that sound? So Arno, it's on you if you can bring back some language next week for a vote if it needs to get there. Is that okay?
Yeah, I guess so. Like,
it's up to you whether you want to do that or not even. So yeah.
I mean, I know Ali seemed to think a little bit strongly that we should do this sooner rather than later. So, I mean, maybe next week's already getting a little bit far out.
That's a week.
Because for like unintentional changes, like I do think, like if we're gonna take action in that way, it should be pretty fast.
Our bylaws do allow someone to move for a vote if someone wants to do that.
I think we should do it fast as well if we're going to do it.
Yeah, the longer it stretches out, the more risk of then having somebody complain we've broken them after the fact.
Yeah.
So is someone moving for a vote?
I'll move for a vote if nobody else is.
All right, does anybody object to us having a vote on this? If we don't vote, we keep talking. Sorry, those are the rules. All right. Let's do it the same way. I'm going to see if I can paste in the oh, actually, yeah, maybe we can just copy and paste from above. Yeah. Josh is on it. Cool. All right. So please put +1 if you're in favor, -1 if you're opposed, and 0 if you wish to abstain because you are either on the fence or don't know enough or whatever. Abstentions are useful because it helps us get to quorum. So please mark your ballot.
And to clarify, this vote is for adding a toString tag symbol to global that is lowercase global.
This is to restore the original behavior, correct? If we're voting for it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The PR as submitted, I guess.
So I just got asked where we're supposed to vote. This is in the meeting minutes. Feel free to verbally state your vote or put your vote in the chat, and I will put it there if you don't have that document open. I'm counting 7 in favor so far. Counting 1 opposed so far and 3 abstentions. Is that what everyone else sees?
Yep.
You know what? We're missing. We have to add the 4th eye. So
I believe we even had a +1 from James in GitHub for the meeting.
then yes, let's put that in,
issue.
please. Sector Prion, if you have a vote on this, let us know. And if you wish to abstain and not vote, let us know that too, please.
Sure, I was typing in the chat.
Sorry, which chat were you typing it into?
The meeting chat.
I'm not seeing anything there.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Are you in favor, opposed, or unsure? Oh, there we go. There it is. +1 to land and sooner. There it is. Showed up. Cool. So it looks like we have 9 yeses and 4 abstentions, which means that, and 1 opposed, which means that this passes because with 4 abstentions, it needs 8 votes. So thanks, everybody.
I will mention that like my vote should be counted as -1 if we are not going to change this in the future.
I think everybody's on board with
discussion, though.
with making the change in version 8. Is that correct? Is anybody thinking this should be in perpetuity?
I don't think
Well,
these two discussions should be combined.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. So if somebody wants
Yeah.
to put a pull request in right now to revert this as soon as this one lands, sorry, and mark it as Semper Major, then that can go ahead too, and we can have a discussion there. And if there's anyone that disagrees with that, it can come up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then great. Josh, if you could capture a next step, that I think we should have that conversation. I think somebody should open that pull request. So I think the next steps are this should land, Anna or somebody else should land it. And then we should open a pull request to discuss or an issue at least but preferably a pull request to indicate what we're, what our intention is for version 8. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Evan, do you think you could either like, I don't know, hold 7.1 off or whatever to get this in there? Then that would be great.
Sure.
I don't know when you were planning on actually doing that. I didn't read the issue, but I just saw it.
I was planning to do it on like Monday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday.
Okay, that would work good then. Yeah.
Cool.
And then I guess one other thing for the next steps is I think it's probably going to be a very short list, but I think we probably should try to identify the modules that this will affect and open pull requests against them, or at least file issues.
Yeah, I have like tried to do a listing as Chaka usually does it. It's in the issue for that yard that I like the issue that is getting fixed by it. I don't know how to generate like the download numbers for these things, but it was like, I don't know, like 300 occurrences and like the half of them were copied. So it's not that huge.
That's great. I would like to propose that we move on because we are now over an hour and we haven't done Q&A yet. And so I'd like to move on to that if nobody objects. Cool. Q&A on public channels. Do we have anything?
So someone waves, and then someone else says, "Thanks for all your work, everyone." And then someone asked, "Hello, when will ES6 modules come to Node?" So I can probably answer that. So at the very least, they can't come to Node until we have a V8 version that fully supports them. And our current V8 versions do not. So they will not land probably into V7 or maybe even version 8. We don't know, but they would be in version 8 of Node at the very minimum, I think. Or sorry, at the absolute earliest. On top of that, there's a lot of other work on our end to get ES modules to work outside of a browser context, and that involves working with TC39 a bit to make sure that our stuff can all work correctly, given that it's out of a browser context. So that may take longer. It's not really known yet. Chances are there will be some sort of prototype in one way or other before then, but it will not be particularly supported in any way.
Does Ollie or Bradley or anyone else want to have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so just, I guess, the view from the TC39 side of things is, yeah, we have things in the works where we're discussing modifying the ECMAScript module's specifications to make them able to integrate in a different way than they would have to currently, so that we can have something closer to what people expect them to be usable like. The way that we can use the existing specification looks nothing like how Babel works, which is something that we're trying to avoid, because that would require everybody to rewrite their ES modules almost entirely. So even if we were to ship them today, they wouldn't be most likely what people want. So we have work to do.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Someone asks, when will Async Await land? So Async Await is behind a flag in Node 7. I believe we have V8 5.4 in Node 7, and Async Await, I think, is available in V8 5.5. So if that's the case, which I think it is, if V8 5.5 can be updated to without breaking in V7, they might land in a later version of V7. Also, otherwise, they would be available in Node version 8.
And just for clarity, by V7, you mean Node version 7. By
Yes.
V8, you mean the V8 JavaScript engine from Google.
Yeah, I don't know if Ali has anything more to add. If I had the
we
V8
had a
version
brief discussion on GitHub about this, and I did ask Ali a question which I don't think was responded to, but Ali suggested that it may not land in version 7 because of change in behavior. Ali, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it wasn't a suggestion. It was personal opinion on Async Await. Given that promise hooks aren't available in 5.5 for Node, this means that tracing and async hooks won't work well with Async Await, which are necessarily tied to native promises. So I personally think that shipping Async Await without promise hooks, would not be that great, but it's just an opinion. If it's entirely a different matter whether or not we can update to V8 5.5 without an ABI change, with an ABI compatibility patch, and whether if that's doable, we may be able to ship them, but I don't think it's a good idea to do that.
It's worth remembering that for when we have the discussion then. I mean, you can make the same argument that we shouldn't be shipping promises because we don't have good tracing hooks. But
well, no, promises tie you into promises, native promises. You aren't tied into native promises. You can use user-based promises, but Async Await forces you into native promises.
Yeah, I think Rod was mentioning shipping native promises, and well, I have actually brought this up before, so.
I'd like to just do a quick shout out. Matt has been working with me to make sure that set of hooks is going to be robust enough for nodes use cases, and they've gone to great lengths to make sure that what they'll be providing us is what we'll need.
Just to clarify, that is Matthew Loring.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from the public, from the peoples?
The person who asked about Async Await says thanks. I don't see anything other than that.
Okay. So I probably should have mentioned upcoming meetings while we were waiting for Q&A, but there's the next CTC meeting will be in 1 week. Not sure yet on the time. Watch this space. Probably 9 a.m. as Josh was typing, but yeah, we'll make a determination by Monday or Tuesday for sure. TSC meeting tomorrow at this time at 1 p.m. Pacific time, which I guess is 8 p.m. UTC. And the diagnostics group will be meeting on November 9th at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which, if I'm doing the math right, is 10 p.m. UTC. Anything else before we sign off, anybody, and move on to the private segment? Okay, well, thanks, everybody.
So someone asked, just at the last second, if there will be any core module for Stomp, STOMP in caps. I'm not really sure what that means, to be honest. Does anyone else know what that means?
Isn't that a tap dancing group?
It's a
Don't know.
simple text-oriented messaging protocol, stomp.github.io. Yeah, very, very unlikely is my guess, but I don't know enough about it to be sure. I don't know.
If it works over TCP, like almost certainly not, because you can then just make it with a JS module. If it needs native code, like maybe if it became really popular, like years in the future, probably. Yeah, don't hold your breath for that. I think probably best to look to modules for that.
Yeah, userland modules, definitely, if that's where it can be implemented. Okay, well, let's sign off quickly before we get more questions about protocols we don't know anything about.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks,
everybody.